So, good morning, welcome to the fourth day session of SML subject at strategic level of CA webinar series. So, today is my last day sessions. So, up to now I have covered 11 chapters. Today I am planning to cover the remaining 4 chapters. So, initially I stated my name. My name is Dimuthu Suranjana, but I did not tell anything about my lecturing career. So, I thought to take a few minutes to tell about my lecturing career also. Then you can have a better understanding about me. So, actually this is my 22nd years in teaching. In chartered accountancy, actually I have been lecturing for last 15 years. I started lecturing at JMC in 2006. Then 2007 actually I lecture at JMC plus IAS in both institutions. 2008 actually I lecture CA Sri Lanka also for case study paper plus executive diploma CA had earlier. Then actually from 2008 I was mainly lecturing at IAS covering many disciplines, for example AAT, CMA, then chartered accountancy. So many of my students have obtained prizes. Even myself I do not remember the number, right. So at first level, then final level. For example, if you look at about the previous syllabus we had, that is VVC subject. So we had 10 papers. In 2015 June, I remember self-study students got the prize. Then 2015 December, no one got the prize. Then after that for 7 consecutive times from 2016 June, so up to June 2019, 7 consecutive time my students got the prize. Then the last time actually 2019 December, self-study students got the prize. So I think it's enough for you to get an understanding about my lecturing career. Then I want to tell a little bit on the difficulty of this subject also for you. Actually here my task is to cover the subject in nutshell by taking 20 hours. So here the objective of CA Sri Lanka is to give an understanding about the whole scope of the subject in nutshell. But in Patrice this is normally 200-hour subject. So if you do self-study, then you have to spend 200 hours. Normally in a classroom I have to spend around 200 hours, but I think now you do not want to participate classroom. So you have a summary of the subject, right. Therefore you can handle the balance part. So you have a responsibility to do self-study also on this. So you should prepare a plan covering at least all main areas in the syllabus. So better to spend at least 200 hours on this particular subject. You write 5 time slot. Then in addition to that one, it's very important for you to prepare yourself by attempting more questions. Here actually at the beginning I told you there are 3 questions. One question carry 50 mark, that is based on a free scene, and unseen will be given in the exam hall. So you better to look at about CIMA, ACC exams, and from there you can find lot of material related to this, since this is a new one. At the same time you can use a filet paper issued by CA Sri Lanka also. I think now it is available, or if not I think very soon it will be available. So you can go through with the filet paper also, right, and do your preparation on that. At the same time, if you have any queries in the future also, you can contact me, there is no issue. As a member of CA Sri Lanka, our duty is to help students, right, so not on financial terms. So we are always free to give our service for you, right. You can contact me, right, at any time, and you can get any clarification on the subject. So I am always ready to give help for students. So with that, I am moving to my first subject, first topic actually, in today's discussions, purpose and value creations. Purpose and value creations. If you remember actually, so within this strategic management and leadership subject, we are discussing the strategic planning process of an organization's. Accordingly, we identify a process that should be used when we are developing a strategic planning process. If you remember, we had strategic analysis stage first. In there, we identify vision, missions, values, goals, objectives, targets. Then we conduct both internal and external environment analysis. Objective of conducting internal environment analysis was to identify strength and weaknesses. Then objective of external environment analysis was to identify opportunities and threat. Then we merge the result through the SWOT analysis. After that, we discuss about strategic choice. In there, we identify different strategic options. Within your syllabus, there are some theories status to get an understanding about different strategic alternative available for an organizations. Accordingly, we discuss Michael Porter's generic strategies, then Bowman strategic clock, blue ocean and red ocean strategies. Then we discuss ANSOP product market expansion GID also. In addition to that one, we look at about the game theory. Then we look at about the evaluation part of the studies also by using the 7S model and the SAFE model. Then we discuss about the study implementations. Within that, we will mainly look at about the resource of the organizations plus different structures organization can have to implement the strategy. Then we look at about strategic control also, balance scorecard and KPI were mainly covered within that. So we cover that process. After that, actually we started to discuss about the functional areas of the organizations. This functional area should be considered under the strategy formulations, under functional strategy. Then at the same time, they should be considered under the strategy implementation also. If you remember, in last session actually we cover few functional areas. So we cover mainly marketing, right, the last time we met. So 2 chapters were covered in relation to marketing. In addition to that, we cover supply chain and operation management also. So within today discussions actually, so I am going to cover HR function. In relation to HR, there are 2 chapters within your syllabus. Chapter number 12, people and value creations, in other words the HR, right. Then chapter number 13, the further aspects in people and value creations. Then we will discuss about the technology in chapter number 14. So in addition to that, we have to discuss about international strategy also in the chapter number 15. International strategy is normally a corporate level strategy, so we will try to cover that also. So with that, so I am moving to today's first discussions, peoples and value creations. So this is all about HR function in the organizations. Right. So within this subject, I am going to discuss few main areas. First of all, I am going to look at about human resource planning, how organization can do HR planning. Within that, we look at about the talent management also a little bit. Then we look at about recruitment, selection, induction process of the organizations. Then employee motivations, then performance management, those areas were mainly going to be covered within this particular topic. Then in the second topic actually we will look at about some additional areas relating to the HR. So, we will look at about training and development, then we will look at about the organizational culture, then we will look at about knowledge management, then leaderships mainly, right. So, with that, so we will move to topic number 12. Right. First of all, we look at about how people can create value for the organizations. How people can create value for the organizations. We look at about the people. Normally, people are active in all part of the value chain, not like other resources. If you look at about the people, they are staying in all areas within the organization. If you look at about finance, if you look at about HR, if you look at about productions, marketing, so everywhere, so people can be found and they create value in different way by performing different functions. So, that is one way they create value to the organizations. Then if you look at about the efficient employees normally produce more. Efficient employees are capable of giving more output from less input. So, that increase the productivity of the organizations and ultimately it will result in reduction in cost. Then when well trained employees can be more effective. So, if you have a trained employee base, they will normally make fewer mistakes and they will create less waste and they will be helpful to improve quality of the organization product also. Well motivated employees normally try harder. If you have a motivated workforce, so they will give their full effort to achieve the organizational objectives. Therefore, it is important to have a motivated workforce within the organizations. Right now, so we had the inductions on HR. Within that, we try to identify how people can create value for the organizations. Now, in the remaining part of this, actually we are going to discuss about the HR functions. First of all, we are going to discuss about the human resources planning. Then we will discuss about recruitment, selection and induction program. Then we will discuss about employee motivations. Finally, we will cover performance management within the chapter 12. So, actually altogether we are going to discuss 4 HR function within this particular chapter. So, in there the first one we are going to look at about is the human resource planning. So, within human resource planning, what is happening? Under HR planning, we are going to estimate future requirement for employees. So, what we are going to do here? We are going to estimate the future requirement for employees. So, we try to identify number of future employees we need to carry out the organizational activities. So, when you are doing this one, we look at about how many people we need in each functions. So, what are different type of jobs we should have within the organizations. Accordingly, we will identify different type of employees. If you look at about this HR plan, this is not a short term plan, this is a long term plan. Normally, this cover a planning period of several years. For example, next 3-year period, and for the coming year, that means for the coming 12 months, normally we try to identify the requirement in details. So, for example, for each position in each department, we will check how many people we need and actually how many people we have. Accordingly, we will try to identify the gap. Then finally, we will identify strategies to fill the gap also. Within HR planning actually, so mainly we are trying to do few things. First of all, we try to identify how many people we need for future activities. In other words, we try to identify the demand for employees. At the same time, we estimate the available number of employees also. So, in other words, we try to identify the supply of the employees also. Then what we do is we try to compare demand and supply of the employees, then we can identify a gap. Then finally, we identify some strategies to fill that particular gap. It is very simple: demand, supply, compare, gap identification, then take the corrective actions, or in other words, identify the appropriate strategies to fill the gap. We will look at about the same process in little bit detail. So, look at the diagram given here. So, first of all, we try to forecast the requirement for employees. So, that means the demand for the employees. So, we calculate the demand for the employees. Then we look at about the availability of employees also. That is the supply of the employees, in other words. Now, normally when you are trying to forecast the requirement for employees, in other words, when you are calculating the demand for the employees, there are certain factors to be considered. For an example, the future project planned by the organizations. If organization have planned some new project, that will result for increased number of employees. So, that will demand more employees within the organizations. For example, suppose at the moment you are only having some plantation companies. In the future, you plan to come up with a new project. You are trying to have some hotel. You are going to introduce hotel in the future. Then, so we need more people to involve in the hotel activities. Another example is, suppose you thought to go to foreign market also. At the moment, suppose you are only operating in Sri Lanka. If you have decided to go to foreign market, so that will also create some more demand for the employee requirement. Similarly, when you are calculating the future availability of the employees, some of the factors to be considered. For example, retirement. There are some employees who are going to retire probably at age 60, you have to count them. Then there are some employees who may leave the organization, you have to calculate that one, you have to estimate how many people will leave the organizations. Then there will be some terminations, there will be some leaves taken by the employees, temporary leaves. For example, if an employee is going for PhD in a foreign country, he will take 4-year leaves. So, those factors should be considered when you are calculating the future availability of the employees. Now, after we have done these two, that means after calculating the demand for the employees plus the supply for the employees. Now, the next thing we are going to do is we are going to compare demand with the supply. We are going to compare demand with the supply. So, when you compare demand with the supply, so we can identify a gap or difference can be found. Normally, for most of the job there may be a shortage, rarely you may find surplus for some of the type of the jobs. Now, the next thing is to deal with surplus or shortage. So, first of all what we will do is we will try to fill the gap by using two main strategies. What are the two main strategies we are going to use? Formation and transfer strategy. For example, suppose there is a shortage of the number of finance managers we want to have. We may promote one of the accountant as a finance manager and try to fill the gap. Or when you are doing this one, we found suppose there is a shortage in HR department, but there is excess in the marketing department. In that scenario, you can use the transfer strategy. You can transfer the marketing department employee to the HR department, right. Then after you have done this one, this may create some gap in other areas. For example, accountant there may be a gap now, or still there may be a certain gap which have not been covered. Now, what are the final steps? We have to recruit people to fill the gaps. When you look at about this recruitment also, organization use two strategies. One is temporary recruitment, other one is permanent recruitment. There are some organizations they do not like to recruit people permanently, because it creates lot of commitment from the organization sides. Therefore, temporary they may try to recruit someone maybe on contract basis and try to maintain that particular job positions. In certain organizations I have seen the same guy is right continue. At the end of the year you renew the agreement, like that you continue that one. I remember one of my friend is working in one of the organizations, chartered accountant. This is the 7th consecutive year his agreement has been renewed, right. That is a temporary recruitment, not a permanent recruitment. So, permanent recruitment, most of the organizations go with this strategy also, permanent recruitment. So, you can use either temporary or permanent recruitment strategy here. Then we will move to the talent management. This talent management concept was introduced by McKinsey consultancy firm. So, McKinsey wrote an article about this talent management in 1990s. Based on that, people started to talk on this particular area. So, what is talent management? This normally refers to method used by an organization to acquire, develop and keep talented individual. Here we focused on the method used by an organization to acquire, that means get people into the organizations, develop and keep talented individuals. So, if you look at about this talent management process, there are a few steps can be identified. So, under the talent management, first of all we have to attract people, you have to attract talented individual into the organizations. Then from them you have to identify who are the most talented individuals, right. So, normally actually how this happen, actually attract you mean the recruitment, you try to get the most suitable candidate for vacant job. Then through selection process you try to identify the most talented individuals and recruit them. Then when these people are working in the organization, next thing is you have to develop these people, development. Then engagement, you want to engage them to the organization work. Retain, you have to motivate them to retain with the organization. And deployment, use these individuals, right. If you look at about them, some of them may have high potential for the future, right. So, at the present they may not give a high value, but in the future you may be in a position to get a higher value from them, and they will be able to have or hold some important role in the organizations. So, what are the aspect of talent management? Aspect of talent management. So, one is sourcing talent, that the first steps actually, sourcing talent, talent එක සපයා ගැනීම කියන එක. So, normally this begin with HR plan and include activities such as recruitment and the selections. So, later I will explain what is recruitment and selections. That is the first one. Then the second one, alignment and engagement. Alignment and engagement. So, this is the process of educating new recruit about the objective of the organizations, so that they understand what is expected from them. That is normally happening through a formal orientation program. So, I am sure that you may have gone through a formal orientations program within the organizations. Within that, so organization will try to cover so many aspects. One is to give a clear understanding about the organizational activities. Organizations have different methodology for that purpose. In some organizations I have seen they use videos. Videos are used. Then they try to introduce different policies, procedure document they have. That is one area. Give understanding about the organization. And the second thing is to give an understanding about the job role of the employee. Normally, organization knowledge may be given by HR guys, then the functional knowledge or the job role knowledge will be given by the immediate boss normally. So, that is one area, orientations. Then at the same time, so you have to accept new recruit into the organization and making them feel welcome and value. That is the socialization process. Socialization process. So, when you have joined with a particular organization, you may have some strange feelings, some strange feeling, because you do not know anyone within the organization. You do not know different functional areas within the organizations. At the same time, you do not know where is the canteen, you do not know where is the washroom. Even you are shy to ask some of the question from people. So, you are struggling, no. So, in that scenario, to reduce that your anxiety, there should be a formal socialization process. So, that also come under this. So, organization use different methods for that purpose. For example, sometime I have seen buddy methods. You appoint someone to look after the new employee. So, that guy will help you to overcome the anxiety you have. Then the steps number 3 is learning and development. Then talented individuals should be given suitable training and help to develop in other ways. Just as very important aspects, you have to give enough training and development for the employees. Right. There are some organizations, they are really good in this aspects. So, I have to tell my former organization, for example, Bank of Ceylon, they are really good in these trading aspects. So, what you have to do is you have to train these talented individuals and you have to help them to develop. Right. Then the fourth one, the retain or retentions, is a very important one. Getting people into the organization is not sufficient. You must ensure these people stay with the organization for long period of time. The retain focused on that area. So, how can you retain people with the organizations? You should have a good reward structure, there should be a good promotion scheme, then there should be some other form of recognitions, even other form of recognition. What other form? Maybe the phrase, praise, even some foreign training given. That is also other form of recognition for the people. People are very happy to go to different countries and experience what is happening in there. Right. We cover 4 main aspects of talent management. So, I did not mention about the war for talent. What is this war for talent? Within that, actually McKinsey introduced the increasing competition exist among different organizations to recruit the best people into their organizations. I did not go much on that. So, that is only a extract from a particular articles. Right. Then we will move to the next topic, the recruitment and selection process. Right. Recruitment and selection process. So, normally recruitment starts when a job vacancy is identified. So, it is the process of obtaining a supply of suitable possible candidate to fill the vacancy. So, here we are looking about the process of obtaining supply of suitable possible candidate to fill the vacancy. So, in other words, here what is happening actually? This is a process of obtaining qualified candidate list for a vacant jobs. This is normally done through advertisement. For example, you advertise the vacant job in the newspaper. So, after the recruitment, the next thing happening is selections. What is selection? Selection is the process of appointing the most suitable candidate to a job vacancy by choosing the best individual from the candidate available. So, under selection, we are going to appoint the most suitable candidate to job vacancy by choosing the best individual from the candidate available. We may use method like interviews, tests, group selection methods, background searching to choose the best candidate. Then you will appoint that person to the job vacancy. Right. Then if you look at about this recruitment and selection process, we can identify few steps relating to this. Recruitment, we can identify three main steps relating to recruitment. Similarly, we can identify three main stages relating to selection also. So, we will look at about them also. So, look at the recruitment. So, recruitment start with identification of job vacancy or vacancies. To get someone into the organization, there should be a vacancy. For example, under the HR planning, we may have identified that there is a shortage of a particular job vacancy. In that scenario, we have to get someone. So, therefore, starting point is identification of job vacancy or vacancies. Sometimes it may be one job vacancy or sometimes there may be few job vacancies. Then identify skills and personal qualities needed for the jobs. That is second thing. So, after you have identified the vacancy, then you have to identify what type of skills and personal qualities we expect from particular job holder. So, here we look at about the job holders qualifications. For example, what are the academic qualifications that person should have, then professional qualifications, then experience, what are the different interests that that guy should have. Then after we have decided that one, right, normally that is covered through job description and personal specification document. Within that two document, we identify the skill and personal quality needed for the jobs. Then by including that one, we can move to the next stage, obtain applicant for the job, obtain applicant for the jobs. Now the next thing is you have to find out some suitable candidate for the available job vacancy. So, that may be done through some internal and external method. For example, publish an advertisement in the newspaper about the job vacancy. Through that you can get some suitable CVs. Then the next stage is the selection. Recruitment is coming to end when you have received suitable profile for the vacant job. Selection, the first stage of the selection is select candidate for interview. From the CV or application form you have received, you have identify more suitable candidate for the interview. Then next one is selection interviews. You conduct the interview. Then the final step is prepare a short list. Prepare a short list. Then offer the job to the person at the top of the list. So, normally candidate who have participated in the interview, so you have to identify who is the most candidate, who is the most suitable candidate. So, normally within the interview you give marks for them. Based on the mark they have obtained, you can prepare a list from the person who has obtained the highest mark. Then you can offer the job to the person who has obtained the highest mark in the list, right. So, sometime if that guy is not going to accept the job, then you can look at about the second person in the list and you can offer the job to that person. Right. Then we look at about internal promotion advantage and the external recruitment advantage also. Normally when there is a vacancy, you have two options. One is to get someone from external environment, that is called external recruitment. Then the other option is to promote someone from the internal environment. In other words, promote someone within the organization. So, we look at about the internal promotion advantage and the external recruitment advantage also. First of all, we look at about the internal promotion advantage. Normally, internal promotion can improve the morale and motivation of the workforce. Morale and motivation of the workforce. Our employees are very happy because they know when there is a vacancy, so they have the opportunity to be promoted. If you are trying to get the external guy, then they will not be happy, no? Now, internally when you are doing this promotion, they are actually very happy. There are certain organizations, they normally apply only this internal promotion method because they know it will help to increase the morale and motivation of the workforce. Right. Then the second thing is internal recruitment provide a career development opportunity to existing employees. It provides career development opportunity to existing employees. Career development help with talent retentions. So, that will help to keep the talent within the organization. Career development opportunity. So, that means for example, if you join as account assistant, then you have some opportunity to go up in the ladder. So, for example, when accountant position is vacant, then you can become the accountant. After accountant position, when finance manager the job is vacant, then you can become the finance manager. So, it provides career development opportunity for existing employee. They can go up in the hierarchy. Then the third one is making internal appointment may be less risky than external appointment since employer already know about them. Less risky. Why? You know the guy very well. If you get an external guy, sometime it is a risky. Why it is risky? There may be some wrong guys. So, if you get a wrong guy, so during his stay with the organization, he will not give the required contribution to the organizations. So, that is not good, no. So, when you promote the internal guy, then you know that guy, then it is very easy to deal with that. Then the next thing is employee may already know the people they will be working with if they are successful in getting the job. If they are promoted, then they know with whom they have to work. For example, if you are an accountant, if you are promoted as the finance manager, then you know with whom you have to work. Then inexpensive and quick. Why it is inexpensive? You do not want to advertise, no? So, advertising normally involves cost. At the same time, this is a very quick method. You do not want to wait. So, immediately you can call applications from the internal people and appoint the best candidate. Then we look at about external recruitment advantages also. If you get guy from external environment, what are the advantages you can get from that? One is internally you may not have employee with the skill required for the job. Internally you may not have the employees who have the required skills. For example, say there are some accountant vacancy, but there are no chartered accountants. Then what you have to do? You have to recruit someone from the outside the environment. No. Then another one is external recruitment may introduce fresh thinking and new ideas into the organizations. So, external recruitment may introduce fresh thinking and new ideas into the organizations. If you get someone from the external environment, he will come up with the fresh thinking and new ideas. He has seen the world. I always say one specific story in relation to this one. සාමාන්‍ය මොකද ලිඳේ ඉන්න ගෙම්බ දන්නේ ලිඳ ඇතුලේ කරන විතරයි. දැන් ආයතන ඇතුලේ කෙනෙක්ව අපි ප්‍රොමෝට් කළොත් එහෙම එයා ආයතන ඇතුලේ දේවල් විතරයි දන්නේ. එයා ලෝකෙ දැකලා නැහැ. හැබැයි අපි එළියෙන් කෙනෙක් ගත්තොත් එහෙම එයා විවිධ ආයතනවල වැඩ කළා. එයා අලුත් දේවල් දැකපු කෙනෙක්. එයා දන්නවා මොනවද අලුතේ ලෝකේ තියෙන දේවල් කියන එක. එතකොට ඒ වගේ කෙනෙක් ගත්ත ගමන් ආයතනයේට බොහොම ලේසි. මොකද එයා අලුත් දේවල් ආයතන තුල introduce kirima sidu karana hinda. So, external recruitment may introduce fresh thinking and new ideas into the organizations. Then the third one, there may not be an existing employee who is the right person for the job. So, internally we may not have the right person for the jobs, right. So, we do not have the right persons, we do not have the required qualified person internally. Sometimes we have some people, but the number of vacancies we have is more than the internal available number. In that scenario, you have to get someone from the outside the environment. Right. The next one is some vacancies may be for junior jobs that existing employees do not want to apply for. There are some job vacancies for junior job. No? For example, janitorial jobs. Internal employee may not be happy. No? They may not be happy to apply for such jobs. Right. Then I am going to look at about the method of advertising vacancies. First of all, we will look at about external recruitment methods. These are very known things. What is the first one? Recruitment agencies. So, you may get the help of recruitment agency. This is very common for foreign jobs. You can see a lot of job agencies are there in Sri Lanka, right? Foreign jobs. Then within that one there is a special group called headhunters also. What is headhunters? What they do? They normally secretly talk for good candidate in compared to environment, compared to organization. They secretly look at about some of the best employee available in comparator organization, and they secretly talk with them and try to get them into the organizations. So, only I have seen individual working as headhunters. In addition to that one, there are some small organization also, they work as head hunters. Then method number 2, media advertising. Another very common one, to advertise in media like newspapers. The third one is internet. For example, you can publish that one within your website or in the internet also, that can be published. Right. Sorry, not in the internet, actually in the website. Right. Then internal plus external people can see that. Then we will look at about internal recruitment method also. Internal recruitment main method which can be used within the organizations. In there you are not going outside the organization, right. So, one option is to use performance appraisal. You can look at about the performance appraisal of the employees. From that you can identify employees who have obtained higher marks, and you can invite them to apply for the job vacancy. If I take very simple example, suppose there are 3 accountants in the organization, but now there is a finance manager vacancy. We look at our performance appraisal of them. Say suppose ABC, A has scored normally 19 last year, B 89, C 75. Then what you can do? You can invite A and B to invite for the job vacancy, since they those 2 persons have obtained the highest mark. Then in-house magazine, internally if you have a journal, within that you can publish the vacancy, you can publish job vacancy. In-house magazine, nowadays I have seen lot of e-magazines are available. Right. Then internet and intranets, you can publish the job vacancy in the website, right, internet, or in-house bulletin boards. Other notice board, you can publish the job vacancy. Then we will look at about reason for ineffective recruitment. What is ineffective recruitment? That means you have not received more suitable candidate for the job vacancies exit. So what are the contributor factors for this? So one contributor factor is the requirement of the jobs are not properly considered before the job is advertised. Requirement of the jobs are not properly considered before the job is advertised, so that the vacancy is advertised to individual with unsuitable skills. We have not considered about the actual requirement of the jobs. Therefore, we advertise a job with people who have unsuitable skills. For example, suppose we are a conglomerate, so there is a vacancy for accountant, right? So we advertise the vacancy for the students who have just joined with the chartered first level. So then they may not have the required skill, no? Then the B, there is a failure to agree the minimum acceptable requirement for the job, only the ideal requirement. So you have not identified the minimum acceptable requirement for the job, right? For example, so you may try to think about higher skills. Then what happened? People who apply may not have that particular skill. For example, say book, we need to get a bookkeeper for the organization. We try to find more skill from that particular person. Like for example, we looking about the chartered qualified person for that jobs. Then the third factor is the job itself is not attractive enough, or pay is too low, so that not many people apply for the vacancy. Sometimes I have seen some jobs, right, especially the public sector job. Say you need to get a accountant, say they publish like, we will say for example 15 years post qualifying experience, 15 years post qualifying experience, but if you look at the salary level 75,000. What do you think? Can you get a chartered accountant at 75,000 rupees with a 15 years experience? No one will apply, no, right? So therefore you will not receive enough CVs, no, right? Then the D, the job vacancies are advertised in an unsuitable way, so that the vacancy does not come to the attention of people who might apply if they knew about it. The job are advertised in an unsuitable way. For example, suppose you want to recruit a security personnel for your organization, you advertise with the Sunday Times. What do you think? Security person may not read Sunday Times, no? It's not practical, no? Right? Right. The next topic is evaluating the recruitment process. Evaluating the recruitment process. Now here we try to evaluate whether our recruitment process is effective or not. To decide whether our recruitment process is effective or not, we can use some of the indicators. So, we will look at about some of the indicators we can use. One is monitor the number of applicants for each job vacancy. Monitor the number of applicants for each job vacancy. We will check the number of people who have applied for the job vacancy. If the number of people who have applied for the job vacancy is large, so that indicate our recruitment process is successful. The second one is monitor the number of applicants for each job vacancy who are suitable for interview. Monitor the number of applicants for each job vacancy who are suitable for interview. In other words, monitor the quality of applications. Here we look at about the people who have the required qualification for the job vacancy. From the applied person, we look at how many people have the required qualification for the job vacancy. If that number is high, that indicate our recruitment process is successful. Then the third one is monitor the cost of employee recruitment. We look at about the total cost spent on employee recruitment. If that number is low, our recruitment process is successful. The next one is we are appropriate monitor the compliance of the recruitment process with the laws or the organization policies on equal opportunities employment. So, we check whether our recruitment process in line with the laws requirement, or we check with the equal opportunity employment requirement. For example, we check whether at least 40 to 50% candidates are female. Then what are the different selection method we can use? So, we look at about that also. We can discuss 4 different selection methods. Application form or online test, interviews, then test, group selection methods. Right. The first method is application form or online test. Normally, these are used to use as a per-screening process. Here, the objective is to reduce the number of applicants for interview to a manageable number. Suppose, for example, there are 100 candidates apply. Then we go through the application form or CVs. From that, we identify, we'll say 10 people who are more suitable. Alternatively, you can have online tests also these days. Right? You ask a candidate to do online test. People who pass the online test only invite for the interviews. Right. Then interview. What is interview? In there, face-to-face discussion is taking place, and applicant is asked a number of questions. Based on the answers they have given, we give the marks. Then test. There are different type of test. Intelligent test, then aptitude test. In this intelligence test actually we check the IQ level. In this aptitude test we check the natural ability to do something, for example mathematical ability. Then competences test. Under competences test we check whether the candidate is have a certain level of competence in a specific area. For example, for a typist we can ask typist to type a letter. We can check the time taken by that particular typist to complete the work. Then personality test. Here we try to evaluate the personality and the characteristic of the persons. Normally there are some multiple questions given. Based on that we try to evaluate the personality of the persons. Then group selection methods. What is the group selection method? In there the candidate is not evaluated alone. So we evaluate few candidates together. We may ask some candidate to form a group, right? Then we may give some role play for each member in the group. And I remember in one of the organization I had that experience actually, right. So I was asked to join with some of the candidate came for the interview to form a group. Certain problem you may face, especially in Sri Lankan culture, people are very shy now to move with new people. So actually I had that issue actually. I didn't talk much with other candidate. So here actually there are certain things we are trying to measure. For example, their verbal skill, that means whether they are going to communicate well with the other people, their leadership behavior, whether they play a leadership role, then ability to mediate successfully in dispute when there are some problem among the group members, whether you have the ability to negotiate that particular problems in a favorable manner, right. Those are measured. Right. Normally actually practically what happens is you may be given a role play in a particular situations. For example, board meeting. So one may be identified as a chairman, another one as a CEO, then functional head, and you may be asked to discuss particular matter, right. Then we look at about the reason for ineffective selection also, reason for ineffective selections. So that means you didn't select the best candidate. What are the reasons which can contribute to select wrong candidate instead of identify a correct candidate? So we look at about the contributor factor on that also. The first one is application form for the vacancies badly designed and applicant do not provide enough relevant information about themselves. A candidate may therefore be offered the job when there is insufficient relevant information about them. If you look at the application form, enough information is not available. I will give you a good example. For example, you ask what is the prior experience of the job. That question may be there. Suppose for example you say 15 years prior experience, but you are not trying to identify more information. For example, what are the number of organizations you have worked and the time period you stay with each organizations. That information may not be available, right. Then you just look at about 15 years experience, you didn't look at about number of organizations this guy has worked. I remember one time, right, when I was working in one of the organizations, there was a guy, right, who was recruited. Then, right, he had a good experience actually, around 15 years experience in the industry. Then I remember I had a chat with the guy, then I asked some question from that guy, what are the organization he worked. Then he gave me a list of organization, right. I remember that include Central Bank, Sampath Bank, so many good organization name was stated by that guy. I think more than 10 to 12 organization name were stated by that guy. In any place, this guy has not stayed more than 1 year. Look at. So, what is the guessing now you can get about this guy? Will this guy remain for so long period within the organization? A very rare opportunity, no? I remember the same guy left that organization less than 1 year. That is one of the problem you can encounter. Then the B, there are weaknesses in the interview process. There may be some weaknesses in the interview process. We will look at about that one later. Then effectiveness of the selection process is not monitored and reviewed regularly, so that the need to improve the selection system is not recognized. You may use some traditional interview methods and you have not applied some improvement. I remember in one of the government organizations I faced some of the difficulty. I remember when I went there, so first of all my certificate was checked, it took around 30 to 45 minutes. Then these people asked me to fill the application form, right. I fill that application form. Then I found some common questions. First question was tell about yourself, right. Then I tell about myself, right. There were no single technical related questions, right. So, these traditional systems that is not be effective, no. Right. So, what are the weaknesses in the interview process? So, we will look at about that one also. I remember this was tested few time in the exam. If I am not mistaken, I think 2 times this was tested. So, we will look at about that. What are the weaknesses in the interview process? First one is scope. An interview is too brief to get to know candidate in the kind of depth required to make an accurate prediction of work performance. Within the interview actually, right, very difficult to get to know the candidate because it lasts for only a few minutes, no. Therefore, it is very short to get to know the candidate. I remember in one of the organizations, right, I was interviewed for 10 minutes, maximum 10 minutes. Then later they selected me. I was surprised how they selected me, how they can judge about myself within 10 minutes, right. Then the second problem is artificial situations. Interview is artificial situation, no. Candidate may be on their best behavior, not show their true personality. That is one thing which can happen. They are showing very decent personality. In fact, they may be completely different. The other side of this one is due to the nervousness, they may not do themselves the justice. That also happen. It is very common with these trainees. I have found when I ask the questions, they are struggling. So openly they say that this is my first interview. Normally that may be the reason, no. So what I do is first of all I try to remove their anxiety. Then we can reduce this right problem to some extent. The next one is the halo effect. What is halo effect? Here interview panel is going to make the judgment about the person based on a single obvious attributes. Based on one particular attribute, we are going to judge about the whole persons. For an example, if someone is speaking nicely in English, you come to a conclusion this guy is really good. But technically that guy may be having very low knowledge. That is called halo effects. Then the next one is contagious bias. What is this contagious bias? In there, what happened is sometime interview may change the behavior of the applicant by unintended suggestions. Sometime, for example, leading questions are tested. For example, you may have performed well in the school, කියලා අහනවා. Then what happened? සමහර උත්තරේ දීලා තමයි අපි ප්‍රශ්නේ අහන්නේ. So we give the answer and try to question in that way. In that scenario, automatically that person say yes, like that. That is called contagious bias. The incorrect assessment, qualitative factors such as motivation, honesty or integrity are very difficult to define and assess objectively in an interview. So, for example, very difficult to judge the motivation of a person in an interview. Honestly, very tough, right? Those are some of the problems. Then the inexperienced interviewers, if interviewers lack experience with selection interviews, they may fail to reach a good decision about which applicant to select for the jobs. If the interview panel do not have the required experience, then they may not be able to take a good decision about the applicant. The next topic is evaluating the selection process. This is similar to the previous topic we discussed, evaluating the recruitment process. Here we try to identify some indicators which can be used to judge the effectiveness of the selection process. What is the first one? Staff turnover should be monitored. You have to see the people who have appointed will stay for the organization for a long period or not. If the appointed persons leave within short period of time, that indicate your selection decision is not correct. Then staff development. Now you can check about the development of the people who have recruited. You can check whether these people go on a better job within the organization within a given period of time. For example, if these people get promotion very quickly by performing really well, so that indicate your decision is correct. Then the C, how often does the selection process result in a failure to appoint anyone, and then you check whether the selection process failed to appoint anyone. So if you fail to appoint anyone, again your selection method is not good. Right. Then with that actually we can complete that recruitment and selection functions, and then we can move to the inductions. If you look at about this recruitment selections and induction, these activities normally take place in a sequential order. The recruitment first, then selection, finally you can identify the inductions. What is the inductions? This is a process of getting a new employee to become more familiar with the organization and to feel at home. This is a process of ensuring this newly joined employee become familiar about the organization and feel at home. Look at that, feel at home. Your home is the best place, no, for you, right? Yes. So organization should also feel like that. The objective of induction program is to make employee feel like their own home. Why this is important? Now, when you join with an organization, actually, right, you feel anxiety. Initially also I mentioned this point. You don't know anyone, you don't know different places in the organization, right. So, that anxiety or nervousness should be reduced through a formal program that is happening under the inductions. So, what are the stages in induction process? We can identify 3 stages in relation to this. The stages, stage number 1 is before joining the organizations. Before joining the organizations. So, normally employers use the selection process to inform the individuals about the organizations and what will be expected from them, and organizations employ the right type of person who seem like to fit in well. Within the selection process, employee is given the idea about the organization and what type of thing expected from the employee. Then the employee come to know about that particular organization. I remember in one of the interview, they give a good understanding about the organization activities. Then they say we need to recruit an employee who can work 365 days, right, from 8 to 10. That was the thing they mentioned, 8 to 10. From 8 a.m. to not 10 a.m., 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. That clearly indicate the workload that person should have, right, within the job, right. Then the second stage is on first joining. On first joining, so when the employee's expectation differ from reality, the socialization process is needed to make the individual familiar with the organization standard, method and culture. So often this happen. So a particular organization brand may be have created very nicely, but when you join you found it's a mess, right. So that scenario, to reduce that particular gap, it is important to have a socialization process. The third one is familiarizations. After the employee has joined the organization, the socialization process should begin, right. So normally when the guy join with the organization, you should identify a socialization process to make the employee familiar about the organizations. Normally this process come to end when the newly recruited guy is comfortable with the organization and their work team, and he has normalized the norms of the organization, and he feel accepted in values, and he understand the jobs rules, procedures and informal practices of the organization, and know what is expected of them in the jobs. Right. Then with that we can move to the next topic, employee motivations. Employee motivations. Right, motivation is a broader topic. In this topic, we are going to discuss about the employee motivations. What is employee motivations? So look at the definition given here. Motivation is a decision making process through which the individuals choose desired outcome and set in motion the behavior appropriate to acquiring them. So here employee take a decisions. Within that particular decision, employee decides what he want to achieve. For example, we'll say if you work hard and if you meet the performance target, you can get salary increment of 20,000, right? Then you decided to get that. You decide the target you want to achieve, then you decide the appropriate behavior to achieve that particular target. You work hard and try to achieve the targets. Then what are the theories of motivations? We can mainly identify two theories, content theories and process theories. Under the content theories, it try to answer the questions, what are the things that motivate people? These theories suggest that the best way to motivate an employee is to find out what their needs are and offer them reward that will satisfy those needs. Actually, here we look at about the needs of the people and try to come up with motivational program to cover those needs. There are two main theories we have to discuss within your syllabus in relation to content theories, that is Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory and Herzberg's two-factor theory. Then process theories. These theories ask the questions, how can people be motivated? Content theories look at about what question, here we look at about the how questions. How can people be motivated? They explore the process through which outcomes become desirable and individuals are motivated to pursue. Then here we look at about the process where the motivation take place. According to your syllabus, we have to discuss about two main theories in relation to this. Expectancy theory, Victor Virum expectancy theory and Adams equity theory. So now my next task is to discuss these four theories in details with you. Right. First of all, we will look at about Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory. I am sure everyone is familiar with this theory, Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory. What Maslow did? Maslow tried to identify the main needs of a human being and he put them into a hierarchy based on the relative importance of each needs. If you look at the Maslow's needs, he identified 5 main needs everyone is having: physiological, security, social, esteem, then self-actualization needs. So when analyzing these needs, according to Maslow, physiological need is the number one needs of the people. That is why in the pyramid it has been identified first. Therefore, we have allocated more space on that. That more space indicate the relative importance of the needs. So, what are the physiological needs normally you have? You remember, no? පොඩි කාලේ ඉඳලා අපි ඉගෙනගෙන තියෙනනේ. මූලික අවශ්‍යතා. මොනවද මූලික අවශ්‍යතා? ආහාර, ඇඳුම්, නිවාස, අධ්‍යාපනය, සෞඛ්‍ය नो. Those are the physiological needs, no? Foods, water, shelter, air, form, education, health. Those are example for physiological needs. According to Maslow, people firstly try to fulfill the physiological needs. After completing that particular need, then they look at about the next level of needs, or the next level, that is security needs. These days I am sure that you feel this security need. So here we look at about the safety of us, then job security. These days actually many people are struggling, no. I saw in USA alone 30 million people have lost their jobs. China 80 million people have lost their jobs, right. So job security, so that can be identified as the security needs, right. Then insurance, those come under the security needs. Actually here, so you need to ensure you are living without any issue to your safety. It can be the physiological security, physical security, psychological security or emotional security, all cover under this. Then after the security needs, the next important one is social needs. So you want to move with others, you can't live alone, you want to have friends, you need love, right. You need to have a family, those come under the social needs. Then esteem needs, this is something where you need to achieve the things and you need to get the respect from others. That is the fourth important needs. Independent, recognition, status, respect from others, all come under this. And the final one is self-actualization needs. That is the fulfillment of personal potential. This is the final need you want to fulfill. This is similar to vision of an individuals. You actually live to achieve this final target in your life. According to Maslow, people fulfill these needs in a hierarchical order. First physiological, then security, social, esteem, then finally self-actualization need. So Maslow say until people fulfill first need, right, they will not look at about second need like that, right. Then he say when you go to the second right need, for example security, you will not look at about the previous need like physiologicals. Then Herzberg two-factor theory. Herzberg two-factor theory. So when introducing this theory, Herzberg raised two questions. First question was, what is the opposite of dissatisfactions? Second question was, what is the opposite of satisfactions? Normally if someone asks from a question, what is the opposite word of dissatisfaction, what is the answer you are giving? You will say it is satisfactions. But Herzberg said opposite of dissatisfaction is not satisfaction. He said opposite of dissatisfaction is a point where there is no dissatisfaction or satisfaction. He identified a middle point in between satisfaction and dissatisfactions. He say if an employee is dissatisfied, they will not become satisfied immediately. He say if employee is dissatisfied mode, first of all you have to remove the dissatisfaction of the employee. After removing the dissatisfaction, the employee will come to a point where no satisfaction or dissatisfaction. Then after that you have to use motivator factors to satisfy the employee. if I draw this one, so according to Herzberg, what he has stated is when employee is in a dissatisfied position, first of all, you have to remove the dissatisfaction and get the employee into a 0 point where there is no satisfaction or dissatisfactions. Then he identify some of the factors that lead for the dissatisfaction. He identify them as hygiene factors. Hygiene factors. When hygiene factors are not available properly, right, it leads to the dissatisfactions. So what you do is you have to correct the hygiene factors, then employee will come to a point where there is no satisfaction or dissatisfactions. So what are the examples for hygiene factors? For example, job security. If an employee is not having the job security, for example, suppose you are a contract employee, then you are in a dissatisfied mood. Then first what you have to do, you have to remove the dissatisfaction by correcting that particular hygiene factor. For example, by making that employee permanent, you can remove the dissatisfaction. There are some other examples like working conditions. If you have very bad working condition, then you are dissatisfied. Then your relationship with others, if you have a bad relationship with others, you are dissatisfied. Then supervisions, company policies and pay. Either pay, for example, salary. If you are not paid higher amount, then you are dissatisfied, right? So you have to correct them, then the employee will come to a point where no satisfaction, no dissatisfaction. Then what you do is, you have to use motivator factors. You have to use motivator factors. By using them, you can make that particular employee happy. He will become satisfied employee. So what are the examples for motivator factors? For example, challenging work, opportunity for career advancement, achievement, recognition from boss, responsibility and pay. Either pay actually, for example, incentives, bonus, those normally can be identified as motivator factors. So actually pay behave as hygiene factor as well as motivator factor. Salary is an example for hygiene factor. Bonus incentives are example for motivator factors. So hygiene factors can be used to avoid unpleasantness, in other words, to avoid dissatisfactions. Then motivator factors can be used for personal growth and fulfillment, in other words, for satisfaction purpose. These hygiene factors sometimes called as dissatisfiers, motivator factors sometimes called as satisfiers. Then we will move to Victor Virum expectancy theory. This is an example for process theory. Now you know what is process theory. Under process theory, we are trying to answer the questions how can people be motivated. In there we look at about the process through which outcome become desirable and individuals are motivated to pursue them. Right. According to this Victor Virum expectancy theory, he identified a formula. say motivation is a function of two variable. What are the two variable? One is valence, other one is expectancy. Valence and expectancy. Now here the F is the force or strength of the individual motivation behave in a particular way. In simple term, that is the motivation level of an employee. It can be a higher level or low level. Whether it become a higher level or low level is determined based on two variables, valence and expectancy. So we look at about the meaning of those two also. What is valence? Here valence is the strength of the individual's preference for a given outcome or reward. So valence is the strength of the individual preference for a given outcome or reward. So what is the preference for a given outcome or reward? For an example, if a particular incentive is offered by the organization, what about the employee preference for that? How much he like on that? If that likeness is high, that will create more motivations. How it create more motivation? Because valence, when valence amount is high, automatically the motivation level will also be high. Well, look, a simple example to illustrate this. I am going to take two scenarios. For example, suppose your boss give a target for you and say, if you achieve that target, your salary will be increased by 5,000 rupees. Suppose your salary is 25,000. Right. The second scenario where your boss say, if you have achieved the target, your salary will be increased by 10,000 rupees. In what scenario valence is high? First scenario, second scenario? Second scenario, no? 10,000 is a huge amount when you look at about your salary at present. Your salary is 25,000. If your boss say 10,000 increase will be given if you achieve the target, then what about your preference for that? It will be high, no? Then more motivation will be put. Then expectancy, what is expectancy? The individual perception that the behavior will result in the outcome or reward. How much you believe that particular outcome can be achieved? For example, suppose for the last 4 years your boss has mentioned the same, right? But only one time he increased your salary. 4 times, all 4 years you achieve the target, but after achieve the target your boss say, sorry, this year we don't have much money, right? Therefore very difficult to increase the salary. Only one time he increased the salary. Suppose like that. What do you think about the next time perception about that situations? Do you believe much on that? You will not believe much on that because very low possibility to get the reward, no? Boss sure ne. Here they run nati manusek. Therefore your expected level come down, no? Suppose you have a boss, if he say something, he do it. He fulfill the promise. Suppose in all 4 occasions he gave a promise, after you have achieved the target he fulfill his promise. In that scenario expectancy is very high. So when the expectancy is high, automatically motivation level will also be increased. I think it's clear for you. Right, then I am moving to equity theory. So equity සාධාරණත්වයේ න්‍යාය කියන එක. So here Adams argue that employee seeks to maintain equity or fairness in the relationship between the input they bring to their jobs and the output they receive from doing the jobs. The perceived input that work colleague put into their job and the output that they receive is a very simple thing. Right? So here, what employee do? They compare their input to output ratio with the work colleague input to output ratio. If the two ratios are equal, then they believe fairness exists. If the two ratio is not exist, then they demotivated. A very simple theory. Right, if I show this one as a formula for you, so A compare his output to input ratio with work colleagues output to input ratio. If this is equal, then no problems. If this is not equal, right, then inequity exists. Here who is a work colleague here? Work colleague is someone who work at the similar level to you. For an example, if you are an account executive, work colleague can be a HR executive officer. Here, if I take very simple example, suppose you get 1000 rupees for 8-hour works and your work colleague get 2000 rupees for 8-hour works. What do you think? If you look at the hour payment here, you are given 125 rupees for an hour. Your work colleague is given 254 hours for an hour. Now in this scenario, you feel inequity because your input to output ratio is less than the work colleague input to output ratio. Right. So we'll look at this further. So here I have given the ratio outcome divided by input equal work colleagues outcome divided by inputs. To ensure the fairness, this should be equal. So what are the example for input actually? I took example earlier that time given to the job. Anything else? Effort, loyalty, hard work, ability and skills, enthusiasm, drive and ambitions. Then outputs, monetary compensation, remunerations, other non-monetary benefit, flexible working arrangement, recognitions, responsibility, praise and thanks. Those are example for outputs. So normally if this ratio is not equal, so what type of action normally you will take? Within your organization, think suppose you are paid 125 for an hour, but your work colleague is paid 250 for an hour. What you will do first? You will go to boss, right, and say, please increase my salary. If your boss increase your salary, then you will be happy, no? Right? Then we'll say he decide to increase your payment for an hour from 1000 to 2000. Then the ratio match each other, no? Then you will feel the equity. Or other way, what is the other way? You told to the boss but not listening, then what will do? You will reduce the input given to the jobs. For example, even though you stay 8 hours, your productivity is suppose 50%, not working. පැය භාගයක් කඩ කරනවා, පැය භාගයක් බයිනවා ඔෆිස් එකේ අයිතිකාරයටයි ඊළඟට ඔෆිස් එකටයි ආයතනටයි දෙකටම බයිනවා. So that is one thing, no? You try to increase the output or reduce the input. Or another thing you may do is, if you are very unhappy, finally what will do? Tata bye bye, and you will leave the organization, no? Those are some of the action you normally will get. Right. Then we look at about job design as a motivator. And job design as a motivator. What is job design? Job design refers to how tasks are organized to create jobs for individuals. How tasks are organized to create jobs for individuals. So we can discuss 3 methods: job enrichment, job enlargement, and the job rotations. So we look at about each one. This job enrichment is sometimes called as horizontal expansions. Sorry, vertical expansions. Job enlargement is called as horizontal expansions. Right. What is job enrichment? Under job enrichment, we are trying to make the job more challenging and more fulfilling. More challenging and more fulfilling. For example, the employee is given the padding responsibility of the job also. Suppose earlier there was a superior officer, he planned the job, right? Now the employee is given the power to plan his own jobs. He will be very happy, no? Right? As an example of job enrichment. Then job enlargement, what is job enlargement? Here more responsibility will be added to the job. In there, more challenging tasks will be added to the jobs. For example, suppose up to now, you involved in preparation of sales invoice in the organizations. Your boss had a new job for you, preparation of bank reconciliation statement. So that's an example for job enlargement. Then next one is job rotations. What is job rotations? India will move an individual from one job to another within the organization or department. For example, in a bank, suppose you work as a teller. After 6-month period, you are given the job of customer relationship officer. And after another 6 months, you are given the job of loan officer. After another 6 months, you are given the job of recovery officer. So you are moved from one task to another. So that will help to reduce the monotony of performing non-challenging work. You know what is monotony of performing non-challenging work, right. So, what is monotony of performing work? එකම දේ කළාම අර එපා වෙනවා කියන එක job එකේ. So that can be reduced by moving from one job to another. Right. Then we look at about participation in decision making as a motivator. Participation in decision making as a motivator. So when you get the involvement of employee in decision making process, there are 5 principles you can apply. All 5 principles start from the C. So what are the 5 principles you can apply? First one is certainty principle. What is certainty? Participation should be genuine. Should be genuine exercise. Employee should not be encouraged to make suggestions only for these to be ignored. When your boss asks you to give ideas, that truly should be considered, not for ignorant purpose. Should be genuine. And the next one is consistency. Effort to establish participation should be made consistency over a long period. So you should get the involvement of employee for a long period of time. For example, say sometime your boss has to come for you. Sometime he take decision alone. That's not good, no. If you are trying to get the involvement, it should be obtained on a consistent basis. Then clarity, පැහැදිලි බව කියන එක. The purpose of participation made quite clear, whether employees ideas are taken as advice or whether employees are given the actual decisions. Right. You have to clearly tell what is the role of the employee in decision making process, whether to give the ideas only or whether they are going to take the decisions. Then another one is capacity. Employees should have the ability and should be provided with information to participate effectively. They should have the ability and they should have the required information to contribute to the decision making process properly. For example, if you are invited to uneducated person for strategic planning process, will he be able to contribute? No. Right. Then commitment. The manager in charge of the decision making group should believe in and genuinely support participation. He should believe on this and genuinely support the participation. With that, we can complete the topic number 7 in chapter 12. So, in the topic number 7, we discuss about the motivation. There is another topic that is also attached with the motivations, that is topic number 8. Topic number 8. Look at about the pay and reward system as motivators. Pay and reward system as motivators. So we will look at about that also. So first of all, we will look at about how is pay is determined. So how the your salary is determined. What are the factors to be considered when we determine the salary of different jobs? One is job evaluations. Job evaluations. What is job evaluations? This is a systematic process for establishing the relative worth of job within an organization. This is a process we apply to determine the relative worth of the job within the organizations. we look at about each job and we identify, so what is the relative level of importance of each job. For example, if you look at about the CEO job is so important for the organizational success, no. So therefore, that should be the number one important job. Look at about the PN job, what do you think? The relative importance of that job is very low, like that, right. First of all, we look at about the relative importance of each job, that is one factor we consider. The job which are more important should be paid more, no. Job low important should be paid low. Then fairness, that is the second factor. Pay must be perceived and felt to match the level of work and the capacity of the individual to do it. And whatever the amount you are paying, that should be matched the contribution given by the employee. Right. The fairness should be there. The negotiated pay scale, in there the unions negotiate with the employer and determine the salary level. Now, for example, in bank industry, this is the way salary is determined. So, once in 3 years, union discuss with the employer, accordingly they decide the salary level. For example, these government banks, so what they do is they have similar salary structures. Union from each bank, right, discuss with the employer, accordingly they determine the salary level, right. So normally annual increment also may be there, small improvement will be there annually, right. In addition that one, once in 3 years that salary increment are higher, salary increment will be given to the employees, that is called negotiated pay scales. Then market rates. For some job there may be market rate that most employers pay. For example, your salary, chartered accountant salary. So when you qualify chartered, what is your market rate you expect? For example, maybe 100,000 rupees, no, right. So if they are not going to pay that amount, you will not accept it, no. Then another element is individual performance in the job. Individual may be paid reward for good performance in addition to their basic pay. For example, incentives based on the target, right, incentive will be paid. If employee has achieved a particular target, then he will be eligible for incentives also. That is another factor you have to consider. Then remuneration structure. So what are the elements of your total package you receive? Remuneration refer to the total package you receive from the job. Basic pay or salary, that is the number one element, basic pay or salary. Then overtime payment, that should be also considered, no? I remember when I was working in one of the organizations, my total remuneration was less than the PN total remunerations. Why? So I remember I was paid 40,000, PN salary was around 15,000, but that guy got bonus, that guy got overtime more than 50,000 rupees, right. So you have to consider about the overtime payment also, no, right. Right. Then pension in some organization, that's also benefit given for employees. For example, government organization, pension, right. So after retiring, you can get a percentage of the salary. For example, government organization around 85% of the salary, 80% of the total salary is paid as pension. Right. Then benefit in kinds. Some of the benefit given in kinds. For example, company car givens. Then annual bonus linked to the achievement of performance targets. There are some bonuses linked with the performance target, attached with the performance target. If you achieve that performance target, you will get that bonus. The long-term incentives, this is more available for senior managers. For example, granting of company shares. Normally what happen is commitment should be given. If you stay another 5-year period, then you will be eligible to get that shares like that, loan some incentives. Right, then rewarding the team, there are few structures we can use to reward the team. One is a group bonus scheme, other one is profit sharing scheme. Right, what is group bonus scheme? In there, the team is given a target. If team achieve that particular target, they will given that particular group incentive. This is more appropriate for a work where individual contribution cannot be isolated. This type of scheme may enhance team spirit and cooperations. So this is really good scheme for work which need a team effort. So team members have to work together to achieve the target, then every member will be able to get that particular incentives. Right, then profit sharing scheme is very simple one. So in there, so employee is given a particular profit target. If employee achieve that particular profit target, then a particular percentage of the profit will be given to the employees. For example, say 10 million profit. If employee achieve the 10 million profit target, then we'll say 5% of the profit will be distributed among the employees. Right? Profit sharing schemes. So with that we can complete the topic number 8 and we can move to the last topic in the chapter number 11, performance manage. Chapter number 12, performance management. So performance management, what is performance management? It is a process to establish a shared understanding about what is to be achieved and an approach to managing and developing people in order to achieve it. So this is a process to establish shared understanding about what is to be achieved. So here both management and employee, right, come to an agreement about the target they want to achieve. Right. At the same time, this is an approach to managing and developing people, right, in order to achieve the targets given. So what is the difference between performance appraisal and performance management? Actually, performance appraisal is a part of the performance management. It is include goal settings, performance monitoring, feedback and improvement planning. The performance management is more broad. Part of that can be emphasized as performance appraisal. Actually, performance appraisal is something related with the past. It is a reactive process. Performance management is more proactive process. It more focused about the future. The objective of performance management is to get better result for the organization via the measurement and evaluation of individual performance. And you want to get a better result for the organization via measurement and evaluation of the individual performance. Right. What are the key features of performance management? So we'll look at about the features. The first one is agreed framework of goals, standard and competence requirement. The employee agrees with their manager about the standard of performance, goals and the skill needed. So here we agree what type of target to be achieved by the employee, what type of skills the employee needed to have to contribute to the organizations. Then performance management is a process. The managing people's performance is an ongoing activity involving continuous monitoring and assessment, discussion and adjustment. So, this is a process take place throughout the year. This is taking place throughout the year. Employee performance will be closely monitored by the superiors and the feedback will be given. The shared understanding, the goals of the individuals, unit and organization as a whole need to be integrated. Everyone need to be on the same page of the business plan. So, look at that one. The goals of the individual, unit and organization as a whole need to be integrated. Everyone need to be on the same page of the business plan. So, this performance management will help you to integrate the total picture together. For example, we'll say there's an organization target of achieving 10 million profit. Suppose to achieve that particular 10 million profit, marketing people want to sell at least 1000 number of unit. Then based on that target, marketing department target will be given. Their target is to sell 1000 unit. Based on that, individual target will be given. Suppose for example, there are 4 sales reps. Then each sales rep will be given a 250 unit targets. Now through this, see this performance management process, target setting process for each employee, the whole organ will be integrated together. Then the next one is, this is an approach to managing and developing people. This is an approach to managing and developing people. How this will be used to manage and developing people? For example, when you have given the target, so employee know what they want to perform, right? Therefore, they will work hard to achieve the target. Through that one, you are trying to manage the people. The organization is influencing employee in that way. Then at the same time, this can be used for developing purpose also. So, employee weakness will be identified, then that will be mentioned, that will be stated to the employees. Accordingly, employee will try to correct their mistakes. Not only that, actually, if there are certain areas employees are performing very poorly, so the training may be given on that area. So, that will help employee to develop themselves. Then another one is achievement. The aim of performance management is to enable people to realize their potential and maximize their contribution to the organization success. This will help employee to work hard and put their maximum effort and recognize their the caliber, and it will help to give the maximum contribution to the organizational success. Right. Then if you look at the process of performance management, we can identify 5 steps. 5 steps. So what is the first step? Identify requirement and competences. So what is that? Identify requirement and competences. So here we try to identify the requirement and competences required to perform job or task. So first of all, we identify what type of requirement competences members should have to perform a particular job. For example, so what type of equipment he need, like the resources, computers, then skills. For example, for accountant, the good knowledge about the accounting standard. So that will be identified first. This is normally happening at the beginning of the year. Right. Then performance agreement. In there, the employer and employee agree each other what are the target he want to achieve. Right. That is also happening at the beginning of the year. For example, we will give a target to sales guy to sell 1000 unit. Then the third one is performance and development plan. Here we will identify what are the weaknesses of the employee and what are the training we want to give to improve right those area. For example, say in previous year performance appraisal you have identified that accountant is not having good knowledge about the tax, then you will identify a training plan to send this guy for some tax seminars. These three normally happening right at the beginning of the year. Right. Then the next thing is manage performance continually throughout the year. This happened the whole year from 0 to end. Here what managers have to do, they have to review the individual's performance regularly but informally throughout the year. So, any problem should be discussed and a way of resolving, they agree. Here there is no formal evaluation. You informally tell about his weaknesses, right, then give guidelines. Then the last one, this happening normally at the end of the year, annual formal performance appraisal. So, here you look at about the actual target achieved by the employee, then those are compared with the target given. Based on that you come to a conclusion whether this guy has performed well or not. If that guy has achieved this one, that may be used to give the future right incentives bonus for the employee. Right. Actually if you look at about these 5 steps, steps number 1, 2, 3 normally happening at the beginning, then step number 4 taking place throughout the year, then step number 5 will be taking place at the end of the year. Right, then what are the main component of performance appraisal? Main component of performance appraisal, reward review, performance review and potential review. So, what is reward review? So, in there we check whether employees deserve to get the performance related bonuses or pay increase. So, at the end based on the performance right, we can decide that one. If he has achieved the target, then he will be given the promised bonuses and the pay increase. Then the second one is performance review. So, in there we try to identify training and development requirement based on the performance of the employee. Then potential review. So, based on the performance of the employee, we will identify what type of position he can hold in the future, right. For example, that guy is really capable, then we will identify that guy as a successor for the superior positions. What are the specific objectives of appraisal? The first one is establishing what the individual has to do in a job in order that the objective for the section or department are realized. So, first of all we identify what type of function performed by the employee to achieve the organization divisional objectives. The second thing is we try to identify what are the target employee want to achieve. Then third one is we want to identify the training and development need of the employee based on the actual performance. Then we want to identify candidate for promotions. We want to identify area where more improvement is required. Then the final one is monitoring the undertaking selection procedures against the subsequent performance of recruits. So, what is that? So, here actually we look at about the recruited people's performance and based on that we can come to a conclusion whether our selection procedures are good or bad. If the selected persons are performing really well, that indicate that our selection procedures are really good. If the newly recruited guys are not performing well, that indicates something wrong with our selection procedures. So, what are the main benefits of a formal appraisal system? It provides a system for setting specific goal for the individuals. This provides a system for setting specific goal for the individual. Through this we will give a target for the employees. Then this can be used for employee development. At the same time, this can be used to give a feedback to the individual about their performance. Right. What are the appraisal techniques we can use? Appraisal techniques. First one is overall appraisal. This was very traditional method. In there, the manager write in narrative form about the employee performance. There are no predetermined criteria. He just identifies few criteria and based on that he give the evaluations. For example, he will talk about the commitment of the employee, knowledge of the employee. He will just write something about his performance. No predefined criteria. Then guided assessment. In there, comment will be given on a number of specified characteristic and aspect of the employee performance element. Here, based on the predetermined criteria, comment will be given. For example, knowledge of the employee about the job functions. Then commitment of the employee regarding the job functions. Right. So, like that, so he will give a comment for the predefined criteria. If you compare overall appraisal and guided assessment is a little bit better compared with the overall appraisal, because here the comments are given on predefined criteria. The third one is grading. Under the grading, managers are asked to select one of a number of grades that the individual has achieved in each of the number of different aspects of performance. Now here, so a grade will be given for different aspect in the performance. For example, I will say we have identified few areas in the performance. We will say, for example, knowledge of the job, then skills of the jobs, knowledge, skills, then teamwork, how the behavior of the person in the teamwork, commitment to the jobs, right, commitment, then integrity of the persons. Like that, we will identify few predefined criteria for evaluation purpose. Then what we will do is we will give a grade on each one, right. So, for example, we will say we identify grade from 1 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is the highest one, that is the best scenario. We say knowledge is really good, then we will say 5. Teamwork will say very bad, we will say 1. Like that we give a grade. Then the total is added. We'll say total is we will say 15 from 25 marks, that means the 60. If you convert that one into a 100, 60 is the total mark obtained by the employee. Then behavioral incident method. What is behavioral incident method? These assessments concentrate on employee behavior, right. Here behavior of the individual is compared with typical behavior in each job as defined by common critical incident of successful and unsuccessful job behavior report by managers. Here actually we try to identify some good and bad behaviors of the employee. For example, say this guy was very committed when organization was struggling. This guy give the contribution on Saturdays and Sundays even without any payment. That's a good behavior, right. Sometimes there may be some bad behaviors also. For example, say this guy fight with another employee within the organization premises. That's a bad behavior, right. So we evaluate the performance based on these criteria. Then the fifth one is result oriented scheme. Result oriented schemes. Here we review the performance against specific target and standard of performance. Here actually we give a target at the beginning of the year, then at the end of the year we measure the actual result, then based on that we come to a conclusion about the performance. Then we look at about some of the appraisal methods also. We can discuss few appraisal methods like MBO, graphical rating scales, then 360-degree appraisal. So we look at about each one. First one is performance is judged by achievement of predetermined objectives. This is called MBO. This is very simple. Here we compare individual actual achievement with predetermined performance targets. Very simple, right. We will say at the beginning of the year we have given a target to the employee, then at the end of the year we measure the actual performance. Based on that we come to a conclusion about the performance. This is more relevant with the managerial jobs. So to apply this method you should be able to measure the target in quantifiable manner. If target in qualitative manner is very difficult, right, in that scenario you have to evaluate the performance in a judgmental and possibly prejudicial way. Then graphical rating scales. What is graphical rating scales? So here employees are assessed on the basis of work factors or work behavior. For each aspect of work performance or behavior there is a rating scale and individual are awarded score up to maximum amount. So here in relation to the employee behavior, right, we identify some factors, key factors, then in relation to that we give a marks, right. For example, say you are an accountant, what are the good behaviors of you, what are the key behaviors of you. For example, prepare finance statement on time, so very important one, one critical one. Then make the tax payment on time, right, another one. Then comply with the legal requirement, for example EPF, ETF, like that you will identify some of the work behavior. Based on your real achievement a mark will be assigned. For example, you can allocate marks from 1 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for example, suppose every time right you have prepared the finance statement on time, then you can be given mark of 5, right. Then like that you will calculate the total value, right. So for example, say 15, you took 15 out of the total 25, right. We don't want to discuss bars actually, right, that has been omitted, right, in the syllabus. So I will move to the last one, 360-degree appraisal. 360-degree appraisal. What is 360-degree appraisal? 360-degree appraisal is an appraisal of an individual from a variety of different sources. So here actually not only one person, right, few parties connected with the individual is going to evaluate the performance. For example, individual immediate manager, then subordinate, then peers and co-workers. If you are dealing with customers, customer may also be given the opportunity. At the same time, the individual will also given the opportunity. If I show this one further for you, here the person, individuals, then superior, then subordinate, then the peers. Even there may be some outside parties like customers, right. So here, right, each party will be given the opportunity to evaluate the performance of you, right. For example, we will say total evaluation is done, we will say superior 50% weightage is given, then you 10%, subordinate 20%, then peers 10%, then customers 10%, right. For each party there are some right questions given, right. There will be some predefined criteria, then they will evaluate. Based on this you can get a total evaluations, right, total evaluations. Sometimes you may see that superiors say you are really good, but you will see that subordinates is very bad guy. So those are very helpful for further improvement. So organization like Google, they apply this 360-degree appraisal. So with that we can complete the HR tutorial number 1.